Good morning. Good morning. Hi, my name is Michael Moreno. I am a retirement specialist with the Arizona State Retirement System, and I'm joined by my team member, Joseph Hernandez. I want to thank you guys for your patience as we got here. Got lost along the way, so appreciate your patience. We are going to give like a 25, 30-minute presentation going over some of the more important topics of the Arizona State Retirement System and your pension. And then we will open the floor for questions. And then, Joseph and myself will man the table in the back, and that way you can approach us with any individual questions that you may have, okay? You all should have received a Road to Retirement guidebook. You will notice that there's going to be a couple of slides, that there's going to be a number at the top right-hand corner of the slide that's going to correspond with the number or the page in the guidebook. And it's also a great resource to kind of refresh the topics after the presentation or after today's event. So starting off, I want to go over the defined benefit formula. This is how we calculate your pension, okay? So when talking about this formula, you'll want to have two goals in mind, okay? One is to reach normal retirement or come as close as possible. And the second one is to increase your benefit and retire with the highest pension possible. And we'll talk about, what the formula is over the next couple of slides. So one very important thing to know about the formula is the amount of your monthly benefit is determined by this formula and not the balance in your account. Normally when talking about retirement plans, one of the more common vernacular is the 401k as in kite plan, where your account balance impacts how much your retirement fund is going to, or how much your monthly pension is going to be. With your ASRS account, we are a 401a as in apple, where your account balance has no bearing on how your pension is calculated. Your pension is calculated using this three-factor formula, where we take into consideration your accredited service, multiplied by a graded multiplier based on your credited service, multiplied by your average monthly compensation. When we combine or times those three factors together, it equals your unreduced monthly pension. So now we are going to break down each factor in the formula in more detail. Starting off with credited service. So credited service is earned in different ways. The most common way to earn credited service is through the retirement contributions that are withheld from your paycheck each pay period. Those contributions are sent over to the ASRS, and then we apply 1 month of service to your account. Second way to earn credited service is through service that's not been previously refunded. Say you worked for an ASRS employer early on in your career, you separated from that employer, maybe went to the private side of things, but you left your money on file when you initially left that employer, and now you're back with an ASRS employer. Being that you left your funds on file, you will just start to add on the years of service that you initially had once you left. Just add on to what you had, and you'll also be entitled to any type of member benefits that were in place at that time. So you're grandfathered in. Your membership date is grandfathered into that original membership date. And the third way is through purchasing service. So if you have time with a state agency in a different state, maybe you work in California for the Department of Transportation, and now you're with a ASRS employer, you can buy that time that you're an employee with the Department of Transportation in California. So those are the three ways that members earn credited service, that first factor in the pension formula. The second factor in the formula is the graded multiplier. So the graded multiplier is based on your years of service. And if you multiply your years of service by the graded multiplier, you'll get the percentage of your salary that you'll receive as your pension. If you notice that the graded multiplier caps out at 30 years of service at 2.3%. So to give you an idea about how this works, say someone has 20 years of service, Greater multiplier is 2.15%. Multiply those two together, this person will get about 43% of their salary as their pension. Next example, same premise, 25 years of service, greater multiplier is higher at 2.2%. This person will get about 55% of their salary as their pension. Next example, 30 years of service, greater multiplier 2.3%. Multiply those two together, this person will get about 69% of their salary as their pension. Now you may be wondering, is it possible to get 100% of your salary as your pension? And the answer is yes. You just have to work a mere 43 and a half years of service to get to do so. Sounds like a long time, definitely is. Usually we encounter these accounts when someone was like a lifeguard at the city pool in high school, and then they continued on in their career in state service once they got done with school. It would also increase your pension anytime you increase any of the factors of the formula. So just because the greater multiplier caps out at 30 years of service doesn't mean that your pension will stop growing once you have 30 years of service. The more years of service you have, the higher your pension is going to be. So also keep that in mind. The third factor in the formula is compensation, is your average monthly compensation. There are two terms we use when calculating your average monthly compensation. The first one is compensation pay. So this is money you are basically just paid to do your job. Compensation pay includes your base pay, overtime for teachers, any additional contracts or 301 money, or just progressing your way through your career ladder. The other term that we use is termination pay. And this is money you are paid because you are terminating your employment. Termination pay includes annual leave, personal time off, any incentives, or any sick leave, banked sick leave hours. Your ASRS membership date will determine how your average monthly compensation will be calculated. Let me see here. So, for those of you who started between January 1st, 1984 through June 30th, 2011, we are going to go back 120 months from your last day of work and calculate the highest consecutive 36 months of salary within that time frame. This calculation excludes termination pay. So any sick leave or any vacation hours that you have banked up is not going to be included in your salary calculation. It doesn't mean that you don't receive it. It just means that's going to be dispersed directly from you to your employer, and the ASRS is not even aware of it. Now, legislation changed, and for those who started after June 30th, 2011, we're still going to go back 120 months from your last day of work, but now we're going to take the highest consecutive 60 months of salary within that time frame. And this calculation also excludes termination pay. So are there any questions about the pension formula or any of the factors within the formula before we move on? All right. Okay, so let's move on now to retirement criteria. What you have to do in order to be eligible to retire, okay? So, normal retirement means a pension benefit without a reduction. This is also determined by your ASRS membership date. For those whose membership began before July 1st, 2011, there is more than one way to reach normal retirement. The criteria is as follows. First is 80 points. So when your age plus your years of service equal 80, that's when you're eligible to retire with your full pension. The great thing about the 80-point system is that there is no age limit. For instance, if you were 48 years old and had 32 years of service, you'd be able to retire with your full pension. Second criteria is age 62 with 10 or more years of service. When you add 62 and 10 together, you fall short of 80 points. However, we still consider this normal retirement. And the third criteria is age 65 with any number of years of service. You'd be eligible to retire with your full pension. Whichever one of these three things happens first for you is when you're eligible to retire with the ASRS, with your full pension. So once again, the law regarding normal retirement criteria changed, and for new members whose membership date is on or after July 1st, 2011, we've eliminated the point-based retirement. The new criteria is as follows: age 55 with 30 or more years of service, age 60 with 25 or more years of service, and then the last two criteria are the same as the previous section: age 62 with 10 or more years of service, or age 65 no matter how many years of service you have. Any questions on normal retirement criteria and being eligible for your full pension? Okay, so now I want to talk about early retirement. So we also offer early retirement, but now there is an age limit. If you plan to retire early, you must be at least 50 years of age with 5 or more years of service. Early retirement still pays you a lifetime pension, but it will be permanently reduced based on your age and years of service at the time you retire. To give you an idea about how this works, a couple of examples I want to go over. And this chart is in the guidebook on page 34 and 35. The early retirement chart that we're looking at is for members whose membership date is before June 30th, 2011. So say you were 55 and you had 21 years of service and you wanted to early retire. This person would get 75% of their normal retirement benefit. So, for instance, if this person's normal pension was going to be about $1,000 a month and they take an early retirement, they would get 75% of that, which is about $750 a month for the rest of their life. Now working one more year, so now they're 56 years old and have 22 years of service, they would get 94% of their normal retirement monthly benefit. Or if you wait until 58 and you have 21 years of service, or this is a completely different example. So say someone's 58, they have 21 years of service, they would get 97% of their pension benefit. So I emphasized, your full pension on the previous slides, or what you have to do to get your unreduced pension, to kind of reference early retirement, where there is a reduction if you retire early. If you are considering early retirement, I highly recommend you log into your secure account on the ASRS website and generate a pension estimate. Once you log in, there's going to be some sections and links going down the left-hand side of the page. Under the benefit estimate section, there's going to be a retirement link. Once you click on that link, the landing page is going to have a couple of different retirement milestones organized in like a chart. There's going to be your first normal retirement date. It'll have your age 65 date and pension amount. Then it'll have the next multiplier, and then it'll also have your early retirement, age 50 with 5 or more years of service. If you're considering early retiring, I highly recommend checking out that pension estimate to see if you're able to meet your financial commitments by taking that pension reduction. Any questions on anything we've covered so far? All right, so many people are not quite ready to retire once they've reached normal retirement, and you don't have to. We call this late retirement. If you are an active member and still contributing with an ASRS employer, like I mentioned earlier, your pension will continue to grow based on the formula. However, if and when you separate, you've already met your normal retirement criteria, it'll be in your best interest to start to collect your pension once you've terminated your employment. Your ASRS pension is not like Social Security, meaning the longer you wait to collect it, the more it increases. If you've already met your normal retirement criteria, once you've separated from your employer, start to draw your pension. You're basically just going to be missing out on money if you wait to collect it. If you are not actively contributing, you must collect your benefits by age 73, and that's an IRS requirement, or risk-facing IRS penalties. The ASRS will start to notify you once you go inactive at age 65, letting you know of your pending ASRS benefits. Okay, so this chart here demonstrates 3 different people, all the same age, all making the same salary, but having different years of service, which is also going to impact their multiplier. So it also demonstrates how early retirement can really reduce your pension if you decide to retire early, because the difference between the early retirement and normal retirement amount is almost double, it's almost half. So kind of keep that in mind when thinking about if you want to retire early. So I want to briefly talk about the long-term disability plan that the ASRS offers. It is an income replacement plan. If you are unable to do the duties of your job due to an illness, injury, or disability, there is a 6-month waiting period from your date of disability before payments will begin. If you are eligible, the LTD benefit can pay up to 66 2/3% of your current monthly compensation. And while on long-term disability, you will continue to accrue service credit to a possible maximum of 30 years of service or until you reach normal retirement. However, you need to know that if you refund your money or retire, you are no longer eligible for the LTD plan. So if you, God forbid, if something like this happens and you are thinking about taking out your ASRS funds and closing your account and forfeiting your pension just because you need to live off the money, I'd highly recommend applying for LTD. It's worth a shot. If your claim is approved, like I mentioned, you will continue to earn service credit and you don't have to forfeit your pension. The forms are provided through your Human Resources Department, and the administrator for our LTD plan is Broadspire. You can also find more about it on our website at azasrs.gov. Any questions so far about anything we've covered before we move on to the annuity options, our last section? All right. So in this section, we are going to discuss the 7 different annuity options available to you once you retire. You'll want to consider these very important questions when making your decision. How much money do you want in retirement? And do you want or need to leave money to a beneficiary? There are 7 different options, but you can only elect one. The annuity options are on page 21 of the guidebook if you want to follow along. So right now we're going to go through and quickly name them, and then we will break them down in more detail over the next few slides. Starting off with the straight life annuity option. And I want to call out the amount of the straight life annuity option as well, $1,905 a month. We then have the term certain options, 5, 10, and 15-year term certain. And then we have the joint survivor annuity options, 100%, 66 and 2/3%, and 50% joint survivor. Again, you'll select one on the retirement application once you're applying for retirement. It's nothing that you have to decide now. And also, the important thing to remember about these annuity options is regardless of which option you choose, you, the retiree, will receive a lifetime pension, okay? I want to briefly go over the spousal consent law. So when selecting a pension option, you need to know that this law requires any non-retired married member to name their spouse for at least 50% of any survivor benefit. Retiring members must select at least a joint survivor 50% annuity option with their spouse as the beneficiary. Your spouse can waive their interest in your community property by signing a notarized waiver known as a spousal consent form. All right, so starting off with the straight life annuity. This annuity option is going to pay you the most each month for the rest of your life. However, it doesn't guarantee any funds to your beneficiary upon your passing. What your beneficiary would be entitled to is any portion of your account balance that's left. And keep in mind that your account balance is normally exhausted in the first 3 to 5 years of retirement. So once if you select this option, you get paid the most amount each month. But if your account balance, your contributions are exhausted, the pension is going to stop with your passing. Also be aware that if you elect the straight life annuity option, you are locked in and cannot change to another annuity option. The straight life annuity option allows you to choose multiple primary beneficiaries, which can be people, trusts, and organizations. And with any option, you can designate secondary beneficiaries, which can also be people, trusts, and organizations. So the next 3 options are going to be the term certain options. So notice as the term increases, your benefit decreases. This is because the term certain annuity option guarantees beneficiary benefits for a certain period of your retirement years. Your benefit will be reduced based on your age at retirement and the length of the term you choose. Once again, the retiree will receive a lifetime benefit. If the retiree passes away before all payments in the term are made, then the remaining payments will be made to your beneficiary. So we are basically guaranteeing somebody a payment for the first 5, 10, or 15 years of your retirement. A lot of times there's a misconception among members that this 5, 10, or 15-year countdown begins when you pass away, and that's not the case. The 5, 10, or 15-year countdown, based on which one you choose, begins once you retire. Okay? The 5, 10, or 15-year annuity option allows you to choose multiple primary beneficiaries, which can be people, trusts, or organizations. And with any option, you can designate secondary beneficiaries. Once again, they can be people, trusts, and or organizations. So we have an example here about how the term certain option works. Say you elect the 10-year term certain option, which is 120 payments, and you were to pass away after the 118th payment. Your beneficiary would receive the remaining 2 payments, then the payments would stop, and the account will be closed. So there are 2 scenarios that will allow you to change your term certain annuity option. If your primary beneficiary passes away, or you get a divorce from your primary beneficiary, you can select a new beneficiary, or you could rescind to the straight life annuity option, meaning that your pension will be recalculated. It's going to increase a little bit more each month. But once you pass away, there's more than likely not going to be anything left in the account to pay out to a beneficiary. If you were to outlive the term, we will automatically pop you up to the straight life annuity. So if you outlive the 5, 10, or 15-year term, we'll automatically recalculate your pension. It'll increase a little bit each month. But once you pass away, there's more than likely not going to be anything left to be paid to a beneficiary. Any questions about the straight life annuity or the term certain annuity option before we move on to the joint survivor?
I got one, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Say your beneficiary passes away, and you have already passed away as a retiree. How would that work?
What annuity option are we talking about? Prior to retirement, or what annuity option?
If one of those options, to where the 5, 10, 15, if I would have to pass away and the beneficiary passed away, is it then stopped, or can it be like a third-party option for a third party?
On the term certain, if both the member and the beneficiary, primary beneficiary, pass away before all payments in the term are exhausted, well, we would then pay out to a secondary beneficiary. Yeah, for the remaining term.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Good question. Thank you. All right, so now let's move on to the joint survivor annuity options. This one works a little bit different in that it's going to be paying out a benefit for 2 lifetimes in exchange for reduced monthly pension. So we'll pay out for your lifetime or the retiree's lifetime, and then when the retiree passes away, we'll also pay out for the lifetime of the primary beneficiary. So on the joint survivor annuity options, we have 100%, 66 and 2/3%, or 50% joint survivor. The percentage is in relation to the amount of the member's pension the beneficiary will receive. The higher the percentage designation, the more of a reduction on your pension will come into play. The reduction will be based off of your age at retirement and the age of your primary beneficiary. I mentioned earlier on the title slide of this section where we had the benefit estimate displayed. I called out the amount of the straight life annuity benefit estimate amount, which was, I think, $1,905 a month. In this particular example, if this person was to elect the 100% joint survivor annuity option, their pension reduction would go from that $1,905 a month straight life annuity to $1,767 a month if they elected the 100% joint survivor annuity option. With the joint survivor annuity options, you must select one primary beneficiary. On the previous annuity options, you could have multiple primary beneficiaries, but since we're paying out for 2 lifetimes, you can only have one primary beneficiary, and it has to be a person. The joint survivor annuity options cannot have trusts or organizations as primary beneficiaries. You could have them as secondary beneficiaries, but the secondary beneficiaries will only receive a payment if both the retiree and primary beneficiary pass away and there are still contributions left on the account. There's still a portion of the member's account balance. The joint survivor annuity options will never continue for a 3rd lifetime. To give you an idea about how this works, we're going to highlight the 66 and 2/3% annuity option. If you were to choose this option, or in this example, this person elected the 66 and 2/3 annuity option. Their straight life annuity was $1,905 a month. So their 66 and 2/3 reduction, or their pension, is going to be $1,811 a month. And if once they pass away,
their beneficiary would receive $1,207 a month for the rest of their life. Same premise with the 50% joint survivor annuity option. It's not as big of a reduction as the 66 and 2/3% or the 100% because you're only guaranteeing the beneficiary 50% of your pension upon your passing for the rest of their life. So in this particular example, this person's 50% option amount was $1,833 a month. Upon their passing, their beneficiary would receive $916 a month for the rest of their life. A couple things to keep in mind when considering or when discussing what annuity option to elect with your family members is, do they have their own retirement? Do they have their own pension or their own 401k or other type of retirement plan? Do they have, or do you have life insurance? Are they going to be dependent on your monthly pension or to meet their financial commitments each month? Is there any type of outstanding debt like a mortgage or a car payment that you want to make sure they'll have some money coming in each month to help pay the monthly bills? So you want to keep these things in mind when at retirement when you want to elect an annuity option. If you decide to choose one of the joint survivor annuity options, there are age restrictions, but only if your beneficiary is not your spouse. On the 100% joint survivor annuity option, your non-spouse beneficiary cannot be more than 10 years younger than you. 66 and 2/3, your non-spouse beneficiary cannot be more than 24 years younger than you. And there are no age restrictions on the joint survivor 50% annuity option. But keep in mind, since your age and your beneficiary age is going to be dependent or is going to impact the amount of the reduction, the younger your beneficiary, the more of a reduction on your pension. So for instance, if you want to take the joint survivor 50% annuity option because there are no age restrictions, and you want to have your 8-year-old granddaughter as your beneficiary, the reduction is going to be significant on your pension because we're going to have to anticipate paying an 8-year-old for the rest of their life upon your passing. Like I mentioned with early retirement, I highly recommend logging into your secure account on the website and generating a pension estimate via the pathing I gave earlier. There's going to be a more options radio button at the bottom of that retirement chart with the different retirement milestones. If you click that more options button, you'll be able to enter in the date of birth of your beneficiary you're considering and tell the system to calculate the 100%, 66 and 2/3%, and 50% annuity options, and it'll the number that it throws back is going to have that reduction factor already taken into consideration. It's going to let you know what you're looking at for reduction in order to guarantee someone or your beneficiary a percentage or all of your pension upon your passing. Just like the term certain option, there are 2 scenarios that will allow you to change your joint survivor annuity option. If your primary beneficiary passes away, or you get a divorce from your primary beneficiary, you can select a new beneficiary that is within the age requirements. Your pension will be recalculated. May decrease a little bit each month depending on the age of your new beneficiary. Or if one of these 2 scenarios occurs, you could pop up to the straight life annuity option. Pension is going to increase a little bit each month, but upon your passing, more than likely not going to be anything left to pay out to a beneficiary. Again, once you elect the joint survivor annuity option, you're not able to change it unless one of these 2 scenarios occurs. Any questions on any of the annuity options we discussed? Yes.
So if you choose 100%, right, and the beneficiary passes away from the member, you can get that 100%?
So if you elect the joint stock 100% annuity option and your beneficiary predeceases you, you could elect a new beneficiary who's within, no more than 10 years younger than you, or you could pop up to the straight life annuity option where you'll get a little bit more each month, but once you pass away, more than likely there's not going to be anything left in your account to go to a beneficiary. The pension will stop with your passing. Any other questions before we break to the back for?
Do you have a question?
All right, so before we break to have you guys come up for individual questions, I wanted to mention that our phone number is on the very back of the book, not on the inside, on the very back. We staff a call center with retirement specialists who all have access to your account and will be able to answer any retirement questions that you have. If you're not able to log into your secure account, maybe you have an old email on file and it's not sending the unlock code to the right email address, give us a call, we'll get updated in our system. That's a real common occurrence why people can't reset the password or log into your account. But I really want to emphasize logging into your secure account and generating the pension estimates. That way you can make an informed decision about your retirement. And then you want to familiarize yourself with it because the retirement application is submitted electronically through that online account as well. We also have a secure messaging platform within that online account where you'll be able to send a message with your question. It's also staffed, that team is also staffed with retirement specialists, have a pretty quick turnaround time, usually within like 12 hours to get a response to your question, a response to your message. So if no other questions, I want to thank you guys for your time. Once again, my name is Michael Moreno, and this is Joseph, and we will go on the back table to answer any individual questions that you have. Thank you so much.